I need you to do it. I don't care how you feel. I need you to do it. So can we welcome Brian Barcelona to talk about high school?
Hey guys, it's so awesome to be here with you. I've been preaching in high schools now for 10 years, since I was 18 years old, and I just wanted to share a few stories just to encourage you that high schools are being reached right now. I felt today, even throughout prayer and worship, I felt like the Lord said this saying to me. He said today high schools would be put on the missions map. That today people would recognize a 15 million high school students in America as a mission field. And so a couple years back, I was with my team. We live in Los Angeles, and we were praying. We're like, man, what schools do we reach? And so we're like, we want to reach the hardest schools. And so what we did is we jumped on Google, and we typed in hardest schools in LA. All right, Holy Spirit and Google work good together. So we Googled those schools, and a campus came up in South Central. And so if you've never been to South Central, you should visit it. It's a beautiful place. So we go to South Central, and I go to this high school. I have no connections to it. I show up, and the first person I meet is a security guard. And I talk to the security guard. I says, hey, my name is Brian. Do you guys do any faith-based clubs here? Any, Christian clubs, Jesus clubs? He says, no, we don't do that. We haven't had anything like that in 16 years. I said, wow, is there anyone I can talk to? He says, no, there's no one you can talk to. I said, okay, cool. I'll come back next week. So I show up the next week, and I said, hey, has there been any clubs that have started in the last week? He goes, no, there hasn't. I said, cool, I'll be back next week. So I showed up the next week. I said, hey, has there been any clubs that have been started? He goes, no, there's not. I said, okay. So I go outside. I do a quick little social media video, and this student hits me up on social media and says, hey, you're in my high school. What are you doing here? So I said, bro, can you set up a meeting? He sets up a meeting with me and his teacher. So we go to meet with his teacher, and as we're meeting, the principal finds out I'm on the campus. He calls the teacher and says, there's this guy on the campus. I need to meet with him now. Now, I don't care how old you get. When you have to go to the principal's office, it is still terrifying, okay? So I end up going to his office. He walks in. I said, how are you doing, sir? He goes, don't call me sir. I said, okay, mister, how are you doing? And we begin to talk. And eventually he says, what do you want to do in this school? I said, I want to start a Jesus club. He goes, done. What else you want? I said, I want your gymnasium every week. He goes, done. What else you want? I said, I want to bring like 20 people. He said, done. What else you want? I'm like, man, I want $1 million, It's crazy. We end up launching this club in this school that had not had the gospel in 16 years. First meeting, 200 students show up and give their life to Jesus. All across America, we are seeing with One Voice in Jesus clubs right now, a little over 12,000 students gathering in gymnasiums and auditoriums, right? High schools is now on the missions map. And I believe people in this stadium are going to go. Can I share one more story? So I was in another school in South Central, and we ended up, similar story, I ended up showing up, except there's a little bit more interesting security guard. There's this guy named Bubba. And so I show up. This black guy named Bubba, he goes, what's up, man? What are you doing here? I said, hey, same thing. Is there any Bible club, Jesus club? He says, no, we haven't had none of that in about 12 years. I said, awesome. I said, is there anyone I can talk to? He says, you can go to the office. So I go to the office. I talk to the principals. I said, hey, is there any sort of club here? They says, no, we don't do that. I says, great. Is there any way I can serve you? And the principal says, you can repaint my office. I said, great. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Guess who showed up with paint 2 weeks later? We did, right? We repaint his office. He is so moved. He calls me into his office and he goes like this. He goes, so what can I do for you? I said, I want to start a Jesus club. He goes, I know a lady. I'm like, what's her name? He goes, her name is Miss On. We call her Crazy On. I was like, why? He goes, because she carries a Bible. I said, well, let me get her room number. He writes her room number. He slides it on the table. I show up to Miss On's classroom. I think the next day, knock on the door. This Korean woman opens up. How many of y'all know the story's about to get interesting already, right? This Korean woman opens the door. She says, how may I help you? I says, I don't know if I sound crazy, but God told me to come to this school. And she says, young man, I have been praying for 12 years that God would send someone to this school. We launched our first Jesus club in 12 years. Over 200 students got saved, and these clubs have been running now for 3 years. Guys, high schools are being reached. And my friend Sammy, who's going to be sharing next, wants to also share that it's not just high schools. Years ago, Sammy said this to me. He said there's an 8-year window in America. And he says, one day I believe we're going to reach it. And I think this is the fulfillment, Sammy, of that 8-year window beginning to be reached in America.